She exposes, she ignites. With every post she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. With every post she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Oh, what political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. Her voice cuts through, stark and raw, shattering deception, breaking the law. Breaking the law. Icons crumble, empires fall. She stands tall, fierce and cold. Her voice echoes a thunderous call. In the chaos, her strength unfolds. False prophets scatter, truth ascends. The world watches, mesmerized. Political cows, battle never ends. In her light, dark meets its demise. Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. At every post she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Political call, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. Her voice cuts through, stark and raw, shattering deception, breaking the law. Breaking the law. Political cow, political cow. Political cow, political cow. The beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. Her voice cuts through, stark and raw, shattering deception, breaking the law. Breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law. Political cow. Icons crumble, empires fall. She stands tall, fierce and cold. Her voice echoes a thunderous call. In the chaos, her strength unfolds. False prophets scatter, truth ascends. The world watches, mesmerized. Political cows, battle never ends. And in her light, dark meets its demise. False prophets scatter, truth ascends. Truth ascends. The world watches, mesmerized. Political cows, battle never ends. In her light, dark meets its
President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are holding a joint press conference.
All right, we're going to get to the press conference in just a minute. It's a pretty critical one that's happened over the past week. Trump, again, on the move, getting a lot of things done, meeting with foreign leaders. In this case, Prime Minister of India has come out to meet with Trump at the White House. I think a pretty important step, and you got to think, how come they came out so quickly, so early? A massive growing economy, over 1 billion people in the country. Why is it that they came out here? Well, what I'm seeing is he wants to play ball. He doesn't want to get subjected to the economic hit or the tariffs that may ensue if they don't come out front and, kind of put it out there that, hey, we're going to play ball. But before I get into that, I wanted to highlight just a few data points. That, so I can get this up on both screens here. One sec, y'all. Let's see if this will work. Yeah, that's one. That's two. Okay, there we go. I just wanted to highlight a few data points here. It's the old CPI data, going back to it. And let me know what you guys think in the chat, too, watching it over here on YouTube. Looking at the old CPI data, you can directly see actions taken by Biden and the massive jumps that inflation took from one month to the next. Keep in mind that as you look at this very first one here, number one, Biden-Harris, they get $1.9 trillion spending package approved, in the name of COVID. Trump already, very reluctantly, got $2 trillion through the Congress for COVID relief. And most of it, and this was in 2020, right? There was an election going on. He got it done then. It was for a lot of relief for small businesses or businesses in all sorts, a lot of relief that needed to happen, and we just didn't have a better idea. He reluctantly did it because, hitting the printing press to that scale is just something that you don't really feel comfortable with unless maybe you're a subscriber to the modern monetary theory, which is, of course, what all those Nobel laureates who decided to go with Biden-Harris as their endorsement. They're all modern monetary theory economists. But you can see here, look, you got 1.9 trillion, and then look what happens. CPI, boom, jumps up. All right, starts to moderate off, right? And it may have just kept going and then like starting to dip down eventually. But what did they do? They're like, oh, it's tapering off. Great, we can print more. Another 1.2 trillion, right? The infrastructure bill that came through. What happens after they do that, right? Boom, starts going up again. Oh, it's tapering again? Hey, maybe we should print some more. Inflation Reduction Act, boom. Pumps up a little bit. By this point, though, there's only so much that can get absorbed so quickly. There's like a limit as to how quickly these things get in there. So it did bump up, but it extended this duration, right? This should have been, a peak that went up and then came back down really quick. Just like the unemployment that you saw when COVID hit in March and April, you saw unemployment skyrocket and then it immediately fell. You saw GDP drop 10-15%, right? And then it immediately jumped up 20-30% or whatever it was. It should have been a V-shaped curve, not this extended upside down U, right? All of these actions. And you think about it, it's like, did they really not know what they were doing? Did they think that this was a good idea? Well, actually, they knew exactly what they're doing, and they did think it was a good idea. It's all modern monetary theory. I won't have my AI give us a summary of it again, but effectively, government can spend, as much as it wants because it can print. It has its own currency, and it can print it if it needs more funds. Debt to GDP does not matter because, again, you can print your way out of that. This is part of the theory, right? And then on top of it, if you want to control inflation that might happen because of your printing, all you got to do is raise taxes, and then you're done. It's just those are the three levers, and you're good to go. And then you might scratch your head and be like, well, wait a minute, you want to raise taxes on people that already can't afford groceries? Like, what the heck is that? And they'll say, like, oh, no, just for the rich, right? But pretty soon you could take every asset, every penny away from the billionaire families that are in the United States. And in our current state, you might run the government for, just over half a year. And then what? What happens then? You'll have to print more. And the cycle never ends. So this is, I think, a pretty important chart. So this was the run up, right? And then look what happens towards the end. What's this uptick that we're seeing right now? Everybody's freaking out. This is around November, right? Which is reflective of data that comes in from October forward. This little uptick right here happened, I guess pretty much when it was a done deal that Trump was going to win the election. And Biden, remember, started issuing massive executive orders. It was almost like there's a 3-4 week span there that he did more in that time period than he did in the entire rest of his term as president. Billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of foreign aid were getting handed out. Things were moving across the across the government. And so all this massive spending happened, and look what's happening now. You can see another uptick, right? There's a direct correlation of spending to how CPI gets done, because at the end of the day, the budget has to balance. They either need to raise our taxes, which they know if they did, would have lost in the election, right? Outright, they wouldn't have stood a chance. They either raise your taxes, which the modern monetary theory told them to, but they ignored it, or they can print. And they just kept, excuse me, guys, and they just kept printing. They just kept printing. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So that's what we see now. Let me bring up the next graphic real quick. Get that one out of there before we jump to what we got here with the very important meeting that India came. It's a big deal that India came here and needed to kind of have a face-to-face and level with us on things in terms of trade. So the metrics that Biden, Harris, the Democrats still, right? And right now when they say like, oh, we feel pretty good, we're tightening up our messaging. What is that? You hired a PR firm? So all of a sudden you guys stand for the right things because you got a new communication strategy around all this stuff? They would point to just GDP, unemployment, right? They would kind of dance around CPI, but it was really for them GDP, unemployment, and the stock market. And I'll post all this stuff on politicalcow.com. You could just check it out there. Again, politicalcow.com. All my stream notes go there. Not terribly fancy. It's just all my links, references, stuff that I put on the stream. You'll be able to get that later. But those are the things they look at. Like, look, the country is growing at 3%, right? And right now we're forecasting to, come in not so hot here. But unemployment rate is slowly edging up. And now you're in a bad situation where we can't lower interest rates because then the inflation will skyrocket up, which it's already being forecasted to keep going up. So they've really, you got to think, that chart that you saw that had the uptick at the end, did they set up what's about to happen here economically? I don't know. That'd be a little bit too calculating. I don't know if they were that good at things. But looking at just how the Dow Jones is doing, how the S&P or the NASDAQ's doing, does not relate to the lion's share of people, because when you start looking at real metrics, right, the ones down here, Redfin, and there's many more of them, so I'm going to start aggregating them and kind of putting them out there with references for people so you can kind of, see what reality is. There are metrics, there are measurements being taken as to the health of the middle class, and it's not looking too hot. The biggest ones to me, difficulty paying rent month to month. It's going up, right? And this survey has been taken many times, and over the past, since Biden was elected, the number or the percentage of people having difficulty to pay rent keeps going up significantly. So this one's astonishing to me. 75% of people skip meals to make ends meet. I don't know what the latest data point is. I'm looking for it. But as of November of 2024, that's when this one came in, 75% of people who make under $50,000 a year, so $50,000 or less, skip meals to make ends meet. And this hits Gen Z the hardest, and then you wonder why Gen Z swung to Trump. Because this is the reality that so many of them are living in, unfortunately. And it does not have anything to do with level of excuse me. Level of education, where you're at in the country, maybe a little bit of that, but a lot of the demographics that the Democrats would thrive on to be able to isolate and, count on, as in their view, marginalized folks to vote for them because they'll fight for them, wasn't there anymore. The youth vote disappeared completely. And it's because of stuff like this. Their inflationary decisions drove costs up significantly, and it hurt folks entering the workforce, whether it was out of college, just, starting your own business, just getting a first job, doing whatever, trades, whatever it was, across the board. 50,000 or less, 75% skip meals. And I mean, in the chats and past live streams, many, many people have commented on that, kind of saying like, yeah, I hate to say it, but like that's my reality too, right? It's unbelievable. And it's something that goes unrecognized because it's not something that people are terribly vocal about. I mean, who runs around, saying these things? But when these surveys were done anonymously and with integrity, I mean, Redfin's a major outlet, a real estate aggregator. A lot of decisions are contingent on the accurate information that they present. So it's not like they have any political bias. They're trying to make money by offering good data and good surveys and benchmarks and analysis to companies who then decide where they're going to invest their portfolios, right? Colorado is the new California. Is it, hey Garrett, thanks for the comment. Is it on the real estate prices going crazy, or I guess it could be on many respects, right? I'm in Texas and the real estate prices have skyrocketed. I think my area, at minimum, it's jumped at least 50% at a minimum. Maybe even a little bit more if I think about it now. Just seeing what some of the places are being listed for here recently. Which the problem again with that is in high property tax states like Texas, where my area is like 3%, if you can believe that. If your home price goes up, like... Sorry, if you guys have been with me for a while, the lingering cough's going crazy. But if your home price goes up, I mean, that's like thousands of dollars a year that all of a sudden you're getting hit with. Real estate's gone nuts. Cookie cutter home selling for $800K for basic, 3 bedrooms. Oh, wow. Man, that's way more than here. So, I mean, it's like 600 here, which is still outrageous, right? 600, depending on where, and I'm in the Houston area, depending on where in the city you're at, but that's crazy. 800K. That is crazy. So again, assets prices are where these inflationary dollars go. The system is not working right. And instead of fixing the system, Biden, Harris, and the Democrats hired a bunch of interns, did a bunch of identity politics, and they just kept pouring dollars into a broken system. Either broken or one that they did not properly administer. Probably a combination of both, in all honesty. And so now you see asset prices have ballooned. Investors love Wall Street because, again, watch where the dollars flow. They're not going to sit in somebody's pocket if they're having to pay more for stuff, right? Buying a lake house, Knoxville, Tennessee, 500K, moving there a month. Man, good for you, Garrett. I'm glad that you have the means to be able to do that. You know what I mean? That's definitely a story that happens time and time again. Folks are moving out of Texas now too, if you can believe it. Or at least from the major urban centers to more rural areas that have a lower cost of living, lower real estate prices, lower taxes, right? So this is a real problem, right? And this is what was handed to Trump. And now this is what you see Caitlin Collins. I forgot the name of the Face the Nation Sunday morning host. Doggone it. She was on CNBC for a while. She's one of the worst offenders. Gets called out left and right, but she just keeps going. They keep pinning this on Trump somehow when it's like, guys, this is like inherited. The data shows you it was inherited. It's pretty darn clear. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm not comfortable with what I see out there in the markets, but segue from that, I think a related topic, just a word from our sponsor here. And I appreciate our sponsor, Noble Gold. You look at what's to come and the system, I can't spot it. If anyone could spot it, they'd probably make a lot of money shorting this thing, but there's something looming that's going to be on par with the financial crisis that we saw back in 08, 09. They didn't fix the system, then they threw money at it through quantitative easing. And that caused asset prices to go absolutely crazy, like we see them now, like Garrett in the chat's talking about with the home prices. Let me see, Garrett was hard. I recently laid off due to Biden's refrigerator. Oh, wow. Thousands of people have been laid off in my industry recently. Oh, man, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. And, it's one of the things, too, from in our area, at least, it's difficult to find people that can do work HVAC. There's like a massive shortage. But, I mean, with that inflation of asset prices, looking at our sponsor here, Noble Gold, the stock market sentiment can change in an instant. Look at NVIDIA. They were flying high, and then overnight, $600 billion in market value was just wiped out. There was no warning. There's no second chances. Noble Gold was one of those that sent out alerts to all their clients to start diversifying ASAP. And so the market crashes won't wait. They strike fast. They devastate the unprepared. Smart investors, though, have already diversified in one step, and they're one step ahead, being protected against what's to come. So for nearly a decade, the folks at Noble Gold have helped thousands protect their wealth with gold IRAs and getting physical gold. They've had $2 billion in precious metal sales so far. Noble Gold is a trusted resource for Americans that are serious about financial security. It's gold that you get physical gold. It retains value. It's yours. And now with a qualified account, you see on the screen there, you get 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins for free. So to me, I'm thinking what alternative assets are out there. And so I'm just not financial advice. I'm just speaking personally. I've actually moved my retirement to be fully in cash right now at the moment because I don't know what's coming up next. I'm waiting to see. I don't want to wake up one night and 30% is gone, right? So, that's the thing that they're talking about here. Are you diversified? Are you going to take action when you're down 10%, 20, 30%? Or do you put some protection in your portfolio now? And this is what, what we got to look at, right, is looking for alternative investments. So don't wait for the next crash. It's not going to send a warning. Check out politicalcowgold.com. I've got it pinned in the chat, and it'll be pinned in the comments as well. Again, appreciate our stream sponsor, Noble Gold. All right, without further ado, here's the interesting thing. A lot of jobs have been outsourced to India over the past 20 years or so. They have huge intellectual capital, right? They train people, PhDs, everything. So a lot of jobs are being moved out there. Now, take the logistics of it away. It's in their best interest to come back to Trump now and say, hey, let's strike a deal. We're willing to play ball, because they don't want to get hit with tariffs, right? But what Trump talks about here is an interesting first step towards rebalancing that equation. Because a lot of what's been put out there now is that they want to make the system work for Americans long term. And so we say that in terms of products being sold overseas and products coming into the States. But what about when it comes to labor, when it comes to actual jobs? What is that going to look like? So this, we'll watch it together, talk through it. I think this gives us a little bit of insight into what may emerge from that. Garrett says, start saving folks, live within your means. I'm very optimistic that the administration will turn things around. Absolutely right. I mean, I don't think there's a better group of folks to have in to help see us through what's to come. Need to take some level of defense on this stuff. Where can you put something that's going to be safe? And again, we got our link to our stream sponsor here, but Garrett, you're absolutely right. Yeah, all right, let's get this running. Hello.
You're watching live coverage on C-SPAN.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, please. Great honor. I'm thrilled to welcome the Prime Minister of India, my friend, Narendra Modi, back to the White House. We spent a lot of time here and a lot of time in India, and he's a very special man. Prime Minister, it is a pleasure to extend to you the same hospitality that you showed Melania and myself when we traveled to your beautiful country 5 years ago. It's hard to believe, so long ago, and it seemed like yesterday. It was beautiful. We opened the cricket stadium, 129,000 seats, I think the largest stadium in the world, and it was an incredible period of time. There is truly a special bond between the United States and India, and the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy, and I believe the world's largest country in terms of the numbers of people. And today the Prime Minister and I are announcing a framework to strengthen those ties even further economically, and the U.S.-India Compact for the 21st century is a historic initiative that will deepen every aspect of our partnership and our friendship. Starting this year, we'll be increasing military sales to India by many billions of dollars. We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters. In 2017, my administration revived and reinvigorated the Quad security partnership. In our meeting today, the Prime Minister and I reaffirmed that strong cooperation among the United States, India, Australia, and Japan. And it's crucial, really, to maintaining peace and prosperity, tranquility, even in the Indo-Pacific. In addition, the United States and India will be working together like never before to confront the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, a threat all over the world, actually. Today, I'm pleased to announce.
So interesting, right? There's security to be had here, right? The sales will help enable them to, like as he's saying, address those global issues, especially the ones that have been surrounding the Middle East for so long. But these are all actions he's putting out front. Like, look at all these things that we're doing. And let's follow it up and see what comes through on the U.S. side. Some of it may be pending to be talked about, but let's see what comes through.
Announced that my administration has approved the extradition of one of the plotters and one of the very evil people of the world, and having to do with the horrific 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack, to face justice in India. So he's going to be going back to India to face justice. As we deepen our defense partnership will also strengthen our economic ties and bring greater fairness and reciprocity to our trading relationship. As a signal of good faith, Prime Minister Modi recently announced the reductions to India's unfair, very strong tariffs that limit U.S. access into the Indian.
Okay, so reduction of tariffs, right? You notice how he jumped into unfair. He's already got this mantra and this mindset going through that these are unfair. We need to get these things fixed. That's what he leans in with. And so I think what was revealed here, it wasn't part of the script. You're not going to say that as part of a joint press conference, just snuck out, right? But I think this is an indication of how he's approaching even India, right? Super friendly trade partner, a big opportunity for us to partner with them for security purposes in the Asia Pacific region. But that slips out, right? So interesting. Like no one is off limits at this point.
Market very strongly, and really it's a big problem, I must say. India imposes a 30 to 40 to 60 and even 70% tariff on so many of the goods, and in some cases far more than that. And as an example, a 70% tariff on U.S. cars going into India, which makes it pretty much impossible to sell those cars. Today, the U.S. Trade deficit with India is almost $100 billion. And Prime Minister Modi and I have agreed that we'll begin negotiations to address the long-running disparities that should have been taken care of over the last 4 years, but they didn't do that in the U.S.-India trading relationship, with the goal of signing an agreement. And we want, we want a certain level playing field, which we really think we're entitled to. And he does also, in fairness. So we're going to work on that very hard, and we can make up the difference very easily with the deficit with the sale of oil and gas, LNG, of which we have more than anybody in the world. The Prime Minister and I also reached an important agreement on energy that will restore the United States as a leading supplier of oil and gas to India. It will be hopefully their number one supplier, in the groundbreaking development for.
So who supplies India right now? Who supplies better part of Europe, right? I hate to say it. I mean, it's coming from Russia. We are in a position to export there, right? Just approved finalization and getting some of these LNG plants completed, and then shipments can begin to Germany, to Europe as a whole, LNG going there, and then growing supplies into the Asian markets, especially India, who has such a high demand for it because they're growing like crazy. As AI takes hold and as they want to have a base there, I mean, that's a massive power draw that they're going to have. And they can't make that happen without it, right? So these are opportunities for us to really shore up security, economic viability long-term for us. Long-term being like this is 25, 30, 40-year project then at that point. And by then, all kinds of innovations can happen. But this is a pretty big deal if he's able to negotiate and steer them towards locking in with the United States, awaiting our facilities to come online, signing long-term export contracts.
For U.S. nuclear industry, India is also reforming its laws to welcome U.S. nuclear technology, which is at the highest level, into the Indian market. This will bring safe.
Hey, interesting comment. Kiwi Crave, good comment. Why does he want Canada, Greenland, and Gaza? Excuse me. Canada, he's trolling. Gaza is a short-term fix to just clean everything up as soon as possible, do something different. If you're going to keep repeating the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result, which is what he's trying to avoid. Greenland is for security purposes because just to the north is Russia. And so it would be a security move in that case.
Clean and affordable electricity to millions of Indians and tens of billions of dollars to the U.S. civilian nuclear industry in India. And under the framework we are announcing today, the United States and India are also joining forces to ensure that artificial intelligence and other advanced technologies are developed by the two of the most advanced nations intellectually and otherwise technologically. Anywhere in the world, there's nobody very much closer. We have an incredible relationship there, and those are This is where it seems to be heading. And artificial intelligence, a very complex subject, but it seems to be where people want to be and they want to go. And we're leading right now by a lot, but other people will try to catch us. I don't know if they're going to be able to. We're going to make it available. We're going to make tremendous amounts of electricity available. We're going to let the people that are buying the electricity make their own electric plants, electric generation plants. And we've never done this in our country, but we're going to get it done very quickly. Lee Zeldin and his group are going to get the approvals in very rapid form. And we're calling it a national emergency, and that's exactly what it is. So we're going to remain at the top of the AI, or artificial intelligence, I think, for a long time to come. And we're going to be working very closely with India and other countries on that. But right now, we're the leader by quite a bit. Finally, we agreed to work together to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all of history. It will run from India to Israel to Italy and onward to the United States, connecting our partners by ports, railways, and undersea cables, many undersea cables. It's a big development. It's a lot of money going to be spent, and we've already spent some, but we're going to be spending a lot more in order to stay advanced and stay the leader. I'm pleased to report that with today's announcements, the friendship between the United States and India is the strongest I believe it's ever been. I think our relationship is the best it's ever been between two leaders of the two countries, and it's an honor to say that. I'd like to now invite the Prime Minister to say a few words, and then we'll take some questions, and we appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much.
So products is just the beginning here, right? Products is just the beginning, rescinding those tariffs, access to the market, and then you keep working from there. This is not a one and done thing. This is going to take continuous effort. It's not something that happens overnight either, in any respect. I think the labor piece is going to come next, and it's going to be a tapering off effect. But let's see if he gets any direct questions on it. It's a very sensitive subject, just given the downturn that's going to happen economically, and there's probably going to be more scrutiny around that stuff coming up. But let's see if any of it comes up in the questions. So Modi's got his opening remarks here coming up.
Thank you very much.
Big sign of respect there.
Your Excellency.
All right, so I don't know about y'all. Okay, maybe just me. All right. Well, we'll let the translator go.
President Trump, delegates of both countries, friends from the media, Namaskar. I would like to, first of all, express my heartfelt gratitude to my dear friend, President Trump, for the grand welcome and hospitality accorded to me. President Trump's leadership has been instrumental in nurturing India-US ties and making them vibrant. I could feel today the same enthusiasm, the same enthusiasm, the same energy, the same commitment that we had worked with during our first term. Our discussions today highlighted
Sounds like they skipped a part there. I don't know.
pride in our accomplishments during his first term, the deep mutual trust that we share, and also the resolve to attain new goals. We also agreed that the partnership and cooperation between India and the US can shape a better world. Friends, the people of America are aware of President Trump's motto, "Make America Great Again," or MAGA. The people of America are well aware of it. The people of India, too, are focusing on both heritage and development as they move forward at a fast pace and with a firm resolve to ensure a developed India by 2047. If I were to say this, borrowing an expression from America, our vision for a developed India is to make India great again, or MEGA. When America and India
Okay, so he's termed his own "Make America Great Again" version. Anyone wanting to repeat that, I would just say be very careful how you pronounce it. Just be very careful. He almost slipped up there.
work together, that is, when it's MAGA plus MEGA, it becomes MEGA, a mega partnership for prosperity. And it is this
kinda
mega
embarrassing.
spirit that gives new scale and scope to our objectives. Friends, today we have also set ourselves the target of more than doubling our bilateral trade to attain $500 billion by 2030. Our teams will work on concluding very soon a mutually beneficial trade agreement in order to ensure India's energy security. We will focus on trade in oil and gas. Investment in energy infrastructure will also increase. In the area of nuclear energy, we also discussed increasing cooperation on small modular reactors. Friends, America plays an important role in India's defense preparedness. As strategic and trusted partners, we are moving forward actively towards joint development, joint production, and transfer of technology. In the times to come as well, new technologies and equipment will enhance our capacities.
We have decided to launch the Autonomous Systems Industry Alliance.
Wait a minute, what just happened there? Did they just switch translators? Like they didn't like the first one?
And a defense cooperation framework for the next decade will be prepared. Defense interoperability, logistics, repair, and maintenance will also be its key components. Friends, the 21st century is a technology-driven century. Close cooperation in the area of technology between countries that believe in democratic values can give new direction, strength, and opportunities to the entire humanity. India and the US will jointly work in areas of artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum, biotechnology, and several other technologies. Today, we also agreed on trust, which stands for transforming relationships utilizing strategic technology. Under this, our focus will be on establishing strong supply chains for critical minerals, advanced materials, and pharmaceuticals. We have also decided to launch a recovery and processing initiative for strategic minerals like lithium and rare earths. We have had close cooperation with the U.S. in the area of space. The NISAR satellite, developed with mutual cooperation between ISRO and NASA, will soon be flying into
Wits Wonder says dictator. I agree. The translator has very good dictation. That's a really good point to make.
space on an Indian launch vehicle. Friends, partnership between India and the U.S. strengthens democracy and strengthens democratic values and systems. We will work together to enhance peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. The Quad will play a special role in this. During the Quad Summit, scheduled to be held in India this year, we will expand cooperation in new areas with our partner countries. Under the IMEC and I2U2, we will work together for the development of economic corridors and in the area of connectivity. India and U.S. will stand strongly together in the fight against terrorism. We agree that in order to eliminate cross-border terrorism, we need concrete actions. And I'm very grateful to President Trump that he, in 2008, somebody who carried out genocide in India, that criminal is now going to be handed over to India, and I'm grateful to President Trump for this. And appropriate action will be taken in the courts in India. Friends, the Indian community living in the U.S. is an important link in our relations. In order to further deepen our people-to-people ties, India will soon open new consulates in Los Angeles and Boston. These will be new consulates. We have invited American universities and educational institutes to open their offshore campuses in India. President Trump, I am grateful to you for your friendship and strong commitment towards India. The people of India still fondly remember your visit in 2020 and hope that President Trump will come and visit them again. On behalf of 1.4 billion Indians, I invite you to visit India. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. That was excellent. We'll do a few questions, please. Please, go ahead. Please, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, blue shirt.
Thank you, Mr. President. People in India will naturally welcome your decision to extradite Thakur Rana to India back home. In that context, I would like to ask you a question about, in last few years, we have seen several groups in the U.S. raising anti-India voice, calling about separation, terrorism activities in India. Do you think that should continue here in the U.S. as well?
Go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Thakur Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying. It's not the, it's the accent.
May I, sir?
Go ahead, back there.
Mr. President, thank you. First, I want to ask
Thank
the
you
Prime
very much.
Minister, you and the President, you both spoke about combating ISIS. You both sounded very excited about this partnership upcoming. And I was curious, how much more confident are you with President Trump leading this country that there will be peace through strength and you will have a successful partnership with the United
Okay, this is a great question. It's almost a test. Like, is this a plant? Like, Trump's testing your your response here. But how much more confident are you now that Trump is here with these security-related items? Let's see. Let's see what the response is.
States versus with Biden's incompetence and weakness over the last 4 years?
It's so funny.
That's your question, but I'll answer it. I agree with you. Yeah, gross incompetence. We're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it has been. Look, the whole world's been set back over the last 4 years by the weakness of the United States, the weak leadership of the United States. But I think we've taken care of it in just 3 weeks. It seems to me that even some of the media that we wouldn't prefer has been writing that this is a much different country right now, that the world has a light over it, not only our country, but the whole world. The Prime Minister told me that before, too, even over India. The world has a light. They need the United States to be strong and powerful, but good. And I think that's happened, and I think it's happened in a very short period of time. But I will tell you, we're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it'll make both countries much stronger. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, Geeta Mohan from India Today, sir. I'll just take my colleague Lalit Jha's question forward because you can understand.
Okay, fine.
The question is about the fact that you've decided to extradite Thakur Rana. Thank you so much. India has been waiting to have him back in India to bring him to justice. But there are many other elements in.
Isn't that something amazing, though? There's somebody out there that committed these atrocities, and we have not extradited him in the past 4 years. I don't know the whole story behind it, but what we have a great rapport with India. Why didn't that happen earlier?
The United States of America, particularly Khalistani separatists who've been working against Indian interests. How is the United States of America going to cooperate on that front with India? There have been allegations that have been leveled against Indian agencies by the Biden administration. Are you going to relook that with Tulsi Gabbard as DNI now?
I think India had a very good relationship with the Biden administration. Biden, they wouldn't sell them oil and gas, which is rather hard to believe because, it's a good thing to do. And a lot of things happened that weren't very appropriate, I thought, between India and the administration, the Biden administration. But as you said, we're giving a very violent man, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know that he's been convicted yet or will be, but let's assume he's a pretty violent person. We're giving him back to India immediately, and there are more to follow because we have quite a few requests. So we work with India on crime, and we want to make it good for India, and it's very important. So that kind of a relationship is very important to us. Okay? Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. President, you've repeatedly called India a big abuser of trade and said it is really difficult to do business in India because of tariffs. You announced reciprocal tariffs today. I am hoping you can speak about what kind of reciprocal tariffs India can expect. Are you willing to make any concessions, and how can India head off these tariffs? I also have one for the Prime Minister.
India's been, to us, just about the highest tariffed nation anywhere in the world. They've been very strong on tariffs, and I don't blame them necessarily, but it's a different way of doing business. It's very hard to sell into India because they have trade barriers, very strong tariffs. We are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them. Whatever another country charges, we're charging them. So it's called reciprocal, which I think is a very fair way. We didn't have that. I was going to do that in my other term, and we had the greatest economy ever in the world. There's never been an economy like we had, and then we got hit with COVID. We had to focus on that, and I wasn't really in the mood to be putting it on Italy and Spain and France and India, frankly, and a lot of other countries because the world was very troubled until we got rid of that nightmare. but we had the strongest economy anywhere in the world during that fairly long period of time during my first term, as you know, and we didn't do the tariffs. We would have done the reciprocal tariffs, but we decided, and I decided, I think on a human basis, on a humane basis, not to do them because of the fact that there was such suffering all over the world. The last thing we needed to talk about is trade problems. But now we do. We're doing, we see a tremendous future for our country, but we felt that now it's finally time, after 45 or 50 years of abuse, that we will do, and this isn't India, this is among a lot of nations. The European Union is very difficult for us, very, very difficult. They tax our companies at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They take advantage of a lot of things, so we're not happy about that. China, of course, is terrible, and we've never taken in 10 cents until I was president. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars from China since I've been president in first term and now. And we have to do that just as a mechanism of fairness. And that's what I've done. And so we are being reciprocal with India. Whatever India charges, we charge them. So frankly, it no longer matters to us that much what they charge, because whatever they charge. I had discussions with India in the first term about the fact that their tariffs were very high, and I was unable to get a concession. So we're just going to do it the easy way, and we're just going to say whatever you charge, we charge. And I think that's fair for the people of the United States, and I think it's actually fair for India. Okay?
To make any concessions, sir? Are you willing to make any concessions, sir? Any concessions?
Go ahead, please. Ask to the
A
Prime
question
Minister,
for the
please.
Prime Minister, please.
Ask to the Prime Minister, please.
Yes. Sorry. Yoshita Singh with Press Trust of India. Prime Minister, thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister, the U.S. is giving a lot of push to curb illegal immigration, and India has been cooperating on this issue. How does India see this issue in the larger context? Thank you.
I don't think this is a question that is about India only, but even globally you can talk about this issue. And we are of the opinion that anybody who enters another country illegally, they have absolutely no right to be in that country. And as far as India and the US is concerned, we have always been of the same opinion, and that is that any verified Indian who is in the US illegally, we are fully prepared to take them back to India. However, it doesn't stop there. These are
a quick comment here. So Wits, hope you're feeling better, not too ill. Thanks for all the likes and follows. Let's keep those going. Wits, so he was not found guilty. He was found liable. It was a civil case, which have very lower thresholds and bars. For example, as was mentioned by Adam Shifty Schiff recently, in a civil case, evidently, I didn't know this. Actually, I don't even know. It came from Shifty Schiff, so who knows if it's true or not, but he did mention that in a civil case, if you plead the Fifth Amendment, what do they call it? Adverse something. There's a specific legal term that the jury is allowed to make an adverse inference from that. That because you took the Fifth Amendment, you must have something incriminating behind it that's compelling you to do that. So they can use that against you, which is bizarre, right? So what happened to your right to remain silent? Anyway, question on the the individual that's being handed over to India. Let me see if I can get this to play real quick. Oh, come on. Oh, no. Had a travel advisory there. Come on. 26. Come on. Play that.
The leaders reaffirmed that the global scourge of terrorism must be fought, and terrorist safe havens eliminated from every corner of the world. They committed to strengthen cooperation against terrorist threats from groups including Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Lashkar-e-Taiba in order to prevent heinous acts like the attacks in Mumbai on 6/11 and the Abbey Gate bombing in Afghanistan on August 26, 2021. Recognizing a shared desire to bring to justice those who would harm our citizens, the U.S. announced that the extradition to India of Tahawur Rana has been approved. The leaders further called on Pakistan to expeditiously bring to justice the perpetrators of the 26/11's Mumbai and Pathankot attacks and ensure that its territory is not used to carry out cross-border terrorist attacks. The leaders also pledged to work together to prevent proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, and to deny access to such weapons by terrorists and non-state actors.
So there was a specific incident that happened in India, and this person was responsible for it. I don't remember the name here, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They're being extradited back to India for that purpose.
Are children of very ordinary families, and they are lured by big dreams and big promises. A lot of them are brought in without them knowing about why they're going to a country. And in fact, they are connected with a human trafficking system. And we have to make sure that we fight against this system. As far as the U.S. and India is concerned, I think what we should do is make efforts to make sure that we uproot these from within the system so that we can reduce or remove human trafficking. And basically, the young, vulnerable, poor people of India are fooled into coming over as illegal immigrants. And our bigger fight actually is against this ecosystem or this system that encourages such gangs to thrive. And I can tell you that India will completely support your endeavor in achieving this.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. The question for the Prime Minister Modi first, if I may. I wanted to ask you, did you discuss any possible business deals with Elon Musk during your meetings today, Mr. Prime Minister? And Mr. President, I wanted to ask you, today you spoke about hoping to have three-way talks with President Xi and President Putin. What would you say to European leaders and other allies who may be concerned that you're apparently more keen to speak to America's adversaries than to its allies? Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll just go in first on this one. We had some talks, and we told the European Union, we told the NATO people, largely they overlap, you have to pay more money because it's unfair what we're doing. We're doing a tremendous amount more. We're probably $200 billion more going into Ukraine, using for Ukraine to fight. And Europe has not really...
All right, interesting comment coming in. Where to go? Come on. Kerry, the damage he does will just push into the next president, which I can bet will be a Democrat. Let me bring up my nifty chart here again. Got to get both platforms here. All right, so this is following CPI, right? And everybody's jumping on him like, oh, look, eggs are $9 a dozen, even though there's a congressman pointing to the $9 eggs, and right next to him there's a tag for $5 eggs. It's like, well, why don't you just buy the $5 ones? But whatever. So you look at this chart, right? Each of these, hopefully you can see my mouse. Oh, no, you can't see my mouse on this. There's from the left to right, 1, 2, 3. Those are each massive spending packages that Biden put in. 1.9 trillion, 1.2 trillion, and then 500 billion at the end. And you see an uptick that happens right afterwards. It doesn't take long for that money to flow through the broken system and move and settle into asset prices, which is what we talked about at the beginning. And so it tapers off, but it's a very long U. This should have been a V event, right? Remember when the unemployment rate jumped massively when everything locked down during COVID, companies went bankrupt, jumped massively, but then it there was massive hiring, right? Unprecedented levels. GDP dropped, say 20%, but then it, shot up, say 15, 18%. I might be getting the numbers wrong, but order of magnitude wise, that was the outcome that happened. So the actions Biden took actually prolonged the period of inflation with all those massive spending packages. It settled them into assets versus allowing it to flow through the economy and it create new innovations, new growth that's more organic in nature, right? Asset prices have inorganically grown which has now had a lot of consequence on the middle class. We went through that earlier in the stream. But at the very end here, you see an uptick. This last box doesn't have a number on it. I should put 4 or 5 on it, but 1.9% inflation, as the election was coming up. Then you see a blip, right? Remember, Biden at the very end issued a massive amount of not just pardons, but executive orders, foreign aid funding. You go down the list. There was more done in the last month and a half-ish of the Biden administration that was done all 4 years prior to that. And you can see the corresponding uptick now in CPI related to that, right? Oh, it's no surprise. So the unfortunate thing is, we knew coming into this that some of the numbers were not looking quite right. Unemployment was not looking good headed into the election. Inflation was continuing. And now it's an extremely difficult spot. So was it calculated, or was it just incompetence and mismanagement? All right. This has carried forward, and so it's, I hope, going to get unwound. I don't know personally what the answers are. I do trust more that we have Trump in charge, along with his team that has come together to handle and see us through this, than I would for, Harris. Housing prices have skyrocketed, right? She wants to build 3 million more homes, but how do you do that? She's going to hit the printing press, right? Print more money, hand it over to home builders, let them build the homes, hand more money over to individuals to pay down payments. What's that going to do? The system's already broken, and your answer is just to hit the printing press or the print button again. Asset prices will continue to go up. Homes will continue to be unaffordable. You go down the list of things. Anyway, so this is when you talk about, I feel bad for the next Democrat, or this is all going to get pushed to the next Democrat president. These are things that have unfortunately been inherited that we're observing right now that have to get dealt with. How they get dealt with, again, I don't know. I do have a lot more confidence that Trump will be able to unwind it than anybody else that's out there at this point in time. But one big thing, not just tariffs on products, but also on the services and the labor piece. I'm interested in seeing how that unfolds over time here with India and some of the other countries in particular.
Really carried its weight in terms of the money. It's not equitable, and we want to see a counterbalance. We want to have them put up more money. They have to do that. At the same time, we had a very good conversation with President Putin yesterday, and we also had a very good conversation. I did in both cases with President Zelensky, and I think we're going to be able to do something. I think we're going to be able to make a deal. And I hope so, because it's a horrible war. It's a very terrible, bloody war with 1.5 million soldiers at least already dead on the battlefield, lying all over the fields like nobody's ever seen anything like it certainly since the Second World War. And so I think we're going to be able to do something. We're working with President Zelensky and with President Putin. And my impression is that I know that President Zelensky wants to make a deal. And I also feel that I know that President Putin wants to make a deal. I wanted to know that before I began any detailed discussions, but the meeting and the conversation.
So I appreciate the discussion happening in the chat, and the poll's still holding at 65%. That confidence that Trump's tariffs are going to see us through this. Things may get a little bit more difficult. They already may have started a bit from a trade standpoint. So, tariffs drive behavior. They're not necessarily an economic tool. They're to drive behavior, and that's of business, of countries. You may put tariffs on somebody so that they stop, aggression, have a geopolitical outcome versus just an economic one. In this case, companies still need to, work for their shareholders, meet regulations and requirements and so forth. There may be a more significant pulling back effect if they see, okay, for the next foreseeable future, these tariffs are going to be in place. Are we good just status quo for the next 4 years and seeing declining sales, declining revenues, so forth? Or do we want to make a massive investment, and in a year and a half, we have all these factories that are fully automated in the United States operating here? And long term, that may actually be a better proposition for them, because the name of the game in the last 20 years, in my view, has been arbitrage on labor arbitrage. The next 20 years from now is massive automation and AI that is much more effective and cheaper long-term than labor, as much as I hate to admit it. So what's the counterbalance? Because a 3,000 worker factory, just the factory example, we don't have to go into office space work, but 3,000 workers in a factory being hyper automated and brought back in the United States may just employ, a few hundred people because of the level of automation. It'll just be engineering staff, technicians, people to keep up the machines, make sure the machines are doing what they need to do, and then whoever else to administer the plant. But it would not require people actually piecing every component together going forward. But the benefit still is that we are self-sufficient as a country, and having that product, that service, whatever it is, exist here, and it's done even more automated. There was a disconnect in the early 2000s. You didn't have the level of technology that we do now in order to do these automations. The robotics wasn't there. If you've ever seen a video of the Tesla plant, I know a lot of people are mad at Tesla, but look at the video of their plants and how sophisticated their robots are. They build those things start to finish. And you imagine that happening for every single product that we have out there that's coming back over. We're not necessarily bringing the same quantity of jobs over, but the quality of those ones, I don't know the ratios, but if the 3,000 goes to 300, right, 10% come back as American jobs, those 300 jobs are much higher quality, will pay a much higher rate, right, and are still extremely beneficial to the communities they settle in. Manufacturing jobs, say, 75, 80,000 a year, they come back, might be over 100K because of the level of sophistication of the type of work that's involved. That's good stuff. That's like real progress. That's real growth. Because at that point, why would you want to ship that overseas? And I seriously doubt that human labor would ever compete realistically against robotic labor, if that makes sense. And that's the trend that Trump will accelerate in bringing these things back. So bringing them back, short term, year and a half, 2 years, whatever it takes them to rebuild here, and then point forward, hyper automated, all that tax revenue coming through here, new employment, and then slowly build up that base as much as it makes sense. I mean, there's industries like pharmaceuticals that are essential for us, are pretty critical. We need those things to be here. So the agreement with India is one step in that direction. I am still interested in what the labor piece is going to look like long term around it, because the products are simple, but when you talk about labor going out the door, how does that get replaced? Some of it may be AI, but Tucker Carlson, when he first moved onto the X platform and started up his own podcast, he was asked, I don't remember who the guest was, he was asked about, automation of trucking and what would you do with that? And he said outright, like, I wouldn't allow for it. There's millions of people that work in transportation. I would not allow for an overnight shift towards full automation. He would just put a stop to it. And so in some respects, we have to think about that too. It's so disruptive to the well-being and quality of life of Americans. Where do we draw that line? And I know some people will jump on us and say, oh, that's not conservative, that's not capitalism. Actually, this is conservatism. Conservatism is not absolute capitalism in that sense. You're looking out for individual well-beings, and you want the system to work fairly and properly. The system's broken right now. We got to fix it. So these are all single steps towards that end. They're not the one step that's going to fix everything. But anyway, let's get back to Modi here.
Also, the meeting with Steve Witkoff in Moscow was a very successful one, and my phone call with him was a very successful one. Please.
You asked a question regarding Elon Musk. I have known him for a very long time. I was not even prime minister at the time when I first met him. I was chief minister. And today he came to meet me along with all his family, with his children. And so we had a nice discussion. As far as the EV is concerned, EVs are concerned, the word EV has a copyright, and that is one person who has a copyright for the word EV, and that is Trump.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask whether you discussed...
I'm not sure what happened with that pounding there. I lost track of the chat here. I apologize, guys, but I see angry, bitter woman. I'm not calling anyone names. I'm just reading a username here, folks. Angry Bitter Woman says, after listening, I see why you remain in the shadows. I just like this red. It looks cool. But I hope your name changes to not angry and not bitter pretty soon. Hope your day gets better.
At all today the case of Gautam Adani, who's one of the wealthiest men in Asia and perceived as an ally of Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi, have you asked the president to take action on that case? Thank you.
Firstly, India is a democratic country, and our culture and our thought philosophy is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which basically means that the entire world is a family. Every Indian is my own family member. And when it comes to such personal matters, leaders of two countries will not get together on that topic and discuss anything on an individual matter.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, please. Sir, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I have a question for you as well. But, Mr. President, you have suggested, with regards to the Russia-Ukraine war, you've suggested several things that Ukraine should give up. The idea of NATO membership, territory that was seized back in 2014 by Russia. What should Russia give up?
Russia has gotten themselves into something that I think they wish they didn't. If I were president, it would not have happened. Absolutely would not have happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. If you look at what has taken place under President Bush, they lost a lot. Under President Obama, they lost Crimea. Under Biden, it looks like they could lose the whole thing. Under Trump, they lost nothing. Ukraine lost nothing. They didn't give up anything. And you take a look at the other three presidents surrounding me, they gave up a lot. I think that when you look at Ukraine and when you look at the mess that they're in, it's got to be ended and it's got to be stopped. Now, Russia's taken over a pretty big chunk of territory, and they also have said from day one, long before President Putin, they've said they cannot have Ukraine be in NATO. They said that very strongly. I actually think that that was the thing that caused the start of the war. And Biden said it, and Zelensky said it, and I think that was one of the reasons, one of the starts of the war. But from long before Putin, they said you cannot have Ukraine going in any way into NATO. And I start from that standpoint. I think everybody knew that. Now, if a better deal can be negotiated, if they are able to make a deal where they can do that, that's fine with me. I really don't care. I want that bloodshed to stop. I don't want to see, we have an ocean between us and the site we're talking about, the site of death. We're calling it the fields of death. We have a big ocean in between us. This is more important for Europe. We shouldn't be in. They have to equalize, and they're going to have to do it fast, but they have to equalize. But as far as the negotiation, it's too early to say what's going to happen. Maybe Russia will give up a lot. Maybe they won't. And it's all dependent on what is going to happen. The negotiation really hasn't started. But I will say, as far as NATO is concerned, from many years before President Putin, I will tell you that I've heard that Russia would never accept that. And I think Ukraine knew that, because Ukraine wasn't in and never requested to be in until more recently. So that's the way it is, and I think that's the way it's going to have to be. Go ahead, please. All right, go ahead, please.
Hey, quick commentary. When he speaks about Putin or some of these other countries, it's not an I don't take it as advocacy. I see it more as kind of shedding light onto what's going on in their minds and the perspective they're taking, which is a good thing to understand and think about.
With the tie, yeah.
Mr. President,
yes, go ahead, please.
This is Saurabh Shukla from News Mobile. Mr. President, you spoke about Prime Minister Modi as a tough negotiator. Who was a tougher negotiator today, and who has a better negotiating tactic when it comes to tariffs?
Oh, he's a much tougher negotiator than me, and he's a much better negotiator than me. There's not even a contest. Okay? Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Reena Bhardwaj from ANI. How do you see this relationship between the India and the United States to counter China? And what is your vision when it comes to India, brokering peace in the Ukraine and Russia conflict?
Well, I think we have a very good relationship with China. I got along with President Xi very well until COVID. That was a bridge too far. But until then, I got along with President Xi very, very well. We were very close as leaders go. I don't want to be naive, but as leaders go, I think we were very close. And I think that China is a very important player in the world. I think they can help us get this war over with Ukraine and Russia. And I look at India, I do see the skirmishes on the border, which are quite vicious, and I guess they continue to go on. If I could be of help, I'd love to help, because that should be stopped. That's been going on for a long time, and it's quite violent. It's quite violent, but I would hope that China and India and Russia and U.S. and all of us can get along. It's very important. The power of weaponry today is, and not only nuclear, but nuclear in particular, the power of weaponry is very important. I said before that I had very constructive talks in my first term with President Putin about the denuclearization of the two countries, and then we were going to go to China after we worked some kind of a deal. And we, at the confines of a deal, he really wanted to do it, so did I, denuclearize. And it's such a beautiful term when you think about it. In other words, to bring it down, because the power of those weapons is too great. And I did speak to President Xi about that, and I was getting also a very good response. He's building a very strong nuclear power. He's not very close to Russia or the United States right now, but he will be soon. I mean, he'll catch up over the period of 4 or 5 years, they say. But it would be a great thing if we could, on a military basis. We're going to spend this year $915 billion on military. Russia, without the war, was spending close to 100, but with the war, I can't tell you what they're spending, but they're spending a lot. And China is spending $400 and $450 billion. We're over $900 billion. And I said, it doesn't really make sense, does it? We're spending the money against each other, and we could spend that money for better purpose if we got along. And I'll tell you, I think that something like that will happen. First, when I left, as you know, 4 years ago, we didn't have Israel and the Middle East. We didn't have October 7th, a disaster, the disaster. Nothing was happening. Iran was not going to do anything, because Iran did not have much money at that point. They were broke. They were totally broke. They didn't have money for Hamas or for Hezbollah. And you didn't have Russia with Ukraine, and that would never have happened. But now I come back, and the whole world is on fire, so I have to put out the fires. But after I put out the fires, I'm going to meet with China, and I'm going to meet with Russia, and we're going to see if we can de-escalate it. We can bring it down military, especially as it pertains to nuclear. Please.
Mike, please.
प्रधानमंत्री जी, आप इंडिया का रोल कैसे देखते हैं? आपने बातचीत की है प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प से,
discussions with President Trump about de-escalating the conflict in Russia and Ukraine. As you know, I have been in constant contact with both Russia and Ukraine. I have also visited both countries. And many people are mistaken, and they feel that India is neutral. I would like to clarify, India is not neutral. We have taken a side, and we have taken the side of peace. And it is based on this principle of ours that in the presence of President Putin, I clearly said in front of the media that this is not the era of war. And even today, it is my conviction that solutions cannot be found on the battlefield ultimately, you have to come to the negotiating table. And India has constantly made efforts that there are talks that take place where both parties are present. It is only then that we will find a solution. The efforts being made by President Trump, I support them, I welcome them, and I would like that President Trump is successful as soon as possible so that the world is on the path to peace once again.
Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I very much appreciate the Prime Minister visiting our great country, and I do really appreciate it. We have so much in common, and all we want to do is have peace, and we want to have strength, and we want to have lots of different things together. But the relationship with India and with the Prime Minister has never been better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that wraps it up. Now, very big deal. Just to sum it up, this was a very big event. The tariffs that India has put on products and services, 30, 40, 60, 70% on them, are going to be matched by what Trump has put out there. They'll work towards rescinding them, work towards building that better relationship. But that's a starting point, right? Because India's exports are much greater than their, the exports that India makes matter to them much more than perhaps our imports to them, right? Because you look at the size of the economy and so forth, they need to export a lot more stuff to kind of get things rolling for them. But the big prize there, though, is labor. And so that's next up. I want to see and watch what happens more and more, because there's an opportunity to rethink how we prioritize Americans first, especially when it comes to labor. Talked about it earlier. A lot of those factories coming back, they're not going to be one-to-one in terms of jobs. It's going to be more of a maybe 10% come back, but hyper-automated, higher quality jobs. It's a big problem with the unemployment report that comes out. Biden, Harris, everybody, the Democrats, AOC, they're doing jumping jacks, doing log rolls down the hill, saying, look at all those jobs we created. But nobody ever says, hey, wait a minute. How come all of them are flipping burgers? Like, is that a good thing? You created 1 million jobs, but they all flip burgers. Is that the middle class and the economy that we're after? And so it's actions like this where you're equalizing, products being able to be shipped overseas on, fair grounds, labor arbitrage not being as huge of an influence and a factor on American workers. That's another big thing. And we got to see what that turns out to bring, because again, if I bring out my my little handy chart here, or table, these are the things that the Democrats have kind of put out there. I only need 6 more, and we got 18,000 guys. Help me out. These are the things that Democrats are pointing to: GDP, the unemployment rate, which again, they never speak to the quality of the jobs being created. They never speak to over 1.3 million more people having 2 jobs, multiple jobs for economic reasons now than when Biden first took office. Guys, I just need 6 more. Somebody help me out. More people having to work 2 jobs. Quality of those jobs are in question. Wages being stagnant. Prices escalating. Asset values escalating, which will, in the long run, lead to higher prices. They never talk about those things, right? All they talk about is, look, GDP is going up. Great. We're doing a good job. Look, stock market's going up. Great job. And all that stuff only matters to those that have, large assets as far as their holdings, which is stock in companies, real estate, so forth. System is broken. And yet Biden kept pumping money into that same system. Going down the list, the Redfin data, and I'll get more and put it out there. 75% of people making $50,000 or less are skipping meals so they can make ends meet. Like, if that doesn't stop you in your tracks, it's like, wait a minute. The last 4 years has not been working for Americans. Absolutely not working. All right. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to call it good here at this point. Man, I just need 4 more. If you guys want to follow after the fact here, I'd appreciate it. Be very grateful. Hit that 18,000 mark. 20's on the way, and then 100's next. But I do appreciate the dialogue and all the dissent that was in the text, in the chat. I think that's important that we get that out there. And it looks like, surprisingly, 28% of people are tired of winning. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. If I had the live call-in available, I would open it up for people who are tired of winning to let us know what makes them so exhausted with winning. But energy industry is a big deal going forward. I think there's a lot more technology, a lot more AI that's going to be centralized in the United States. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Till next time, closing this one out.
Darkness falls, truth emerges. Political cow unveils the lies. Behind the screen, wisdom surges, lighting up hate with her eyes. In the shadows, secrets lurk. She exposes, she ignites. With every post she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, banishing night. With every post she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Oh, what? Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, vanishing night. Her voice cuts through, stark and raw, shattering deception, breaking the law. Icons crumble, empires fall. She stands tall, fierce and cold. Her voice echoes a thunderous call. In the chaos, her strength unfolds. False prophets scatter, truth ascends. The world watches, mesmerized. Political cows, battle never ends. In her light, dark meets its demise. Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, vanishing light. At every post, she does the work, unmasking darkness, revealing lights. Political cow, the beacon bright, unveiling truth, vanishing light. Her voice cuts through.